a well-maintained home always sells more than a home that has glaring deficiencies or glaring, maintenance issues.
For sure.
So you never know when you're going to sell. If you're buying resale and selling resale, the dream home that you've been waiting for could come on the market next week.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome, KT Confidential, episode 150.
Hey.
150. How's it going, Ariel?
It's going wonderfully. Beautiful.
You're up at the cottage. I'll be joining you in 24 hours, roughly.
You know what? I was saying this to the team this morning, and now we're at the end of September. So this is usually where you and I start dissecting, the year at hand, but also start planning, as any good business owner would do. Start planning goals, targets, events, campaigns, and just having discussions about what does next year look like. And I think realtors actually fail doing that and doing it properly. And I'm talking about average realtors, whatever, certainly not ones on our team, whatever, but I think as an industry as a whole, that there's a lot of room for improvement though. But, I think, COVID kind of set us back because you and I, September, October, we'd always plan to be together, whether it was a trip somewhere or, just locking ourselves down in the office together without interruptions for a good 24 to 48, usually 48 hours. And we have some wine, we do some drinking, some eating, and
I've got a nice bottle of Rioja I'm going to bring.
No, I've got a few bottles that I stocked us up on, and then I realized, by the way, if you can bring anything, so for those of you listening, this is episode 150 of KT Confidential. We're going to be talking today about fall maintenance tips and things to do to prepare your home for winter. We're just going on a little more of a personal chat here, I guess. But what I realized is the only wine glasses I have up here. Yeah. By the way, I love the fall weather at the cottage because this is now where you see the leaves starting to turn, the different beautiful colors, and you get that crisp air. You get the wood burning stove going.
Focus here. Wine glasses.
I have these wine glasses that we inherited from the previous owner.
Okay.
They're literally those small.
Are they the tiny? I'll bring some. I can't drink it.
Tiny wine glasses from the dollar store.
Yeah, I remember one time I was this year actually. We were up there, and Alicia's aunt, who owns a cottage, she joined us for a couple nights, and she went to pour me a glass of wine, and she had these tiny little plastic wine glasses. It looked more like champagne flutes, but shorter. And I'm just like, I can't drink out of that. She's like, oh, you snob. But I can't. If I want to drink a nice glass of wine, I gotta have it in a proper glass.
I 100% agree. So I've decided, like, you've eaten a lot of stuff that I've made over the years, and I love cooking Italian food and pastas, and I love grilling.
Are you recording, by the way? Just make sure.
Yeah, we're gonna have some rain, so we're gonna be stuck inside a good portion of time. But so I won't be doing much grilling. So I'm going to be treating you to some of, for sure, two of my favorite Hungarian meals.
Nice.
So I'm going back to my roots because you've never had any of my Hungarian cooking. And I picked up a bottle, beautiful bottle.
Oh, I've had that bottle.
Bordeaux.
I've had that. I like it.
And then, so when I'm putting the wine on the rack, I'm like, hang on. I probably should ask Adrian to bring some nice.
You can't drink that out of glasses. You can't drink that out of a dinky little glass.
Yeah. So I'm excited actually because I'll be making two of my grandmother's original recipes. One is schnitzel.
Okay, I love schnitzel.
So we're going to have some pork schnitzel with some fried red cabbage and some potatoes, some fried potatoes. So that's, the healthy, conscious side of me. Hey, you said you're not snacking on things like chips and junk food, so we might as well make up for it in the homemade meal.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm looking forward to it.
Accompanied by a cucumber salad, so that's one meal, and then the other meal will be a called chicken paprikash, and it's basically a chicken stew in kind of like a sour cream sauce, and it cooks for a long period of time. And I'm going to make it with some homemade dumplings. Very fitting for this time of year when it's cold outside. You got a fire going. My grandmother actually used to make it over the wood burning fire, and I was hoping to do that. So if it doesn't rain, I'm going to take out the cast iron pot. I'm going to make a fire at the pit, and I've got the grill that goes on top of the fire pit. So I'm going to make it over the open fire if weather permits. So I'm looking forward to seeing you. I'm looking forward to going over some goals, plans, targets for next year, talk about how this year was. I'm very, very excited. This has been a tremendous year for us and the team. We haven't announced it to the public or anything, but it looks like we'll end up in the top 10 teams in the country for 2021. So lots of good coming out of this year. We're finally getting out of COVID, all those vaccines and wonderful stuff down the pipeline, back to normal a little bit. So it'll be nice to hang out.
It will be. I'm looking forward to it. And before we jump into the topic, on your note about planning ahead and that's where a lot of real estate agents fail. I think there's, it's good to differentiate between people that are in sales and people that are business owners or entrepreneurs or, what their role is and what their goal is. But I think, yes, if you want to build a business, you almost, and we're now able to do that because of the team we've got supporting us. We are always kind of working a year in advance while the team is facilitating all the day-to-day. And if you're not doing that, you'll never grow. You'll fall behind.
That's a great point. That's a very, very good point. Like oftentimes when you have, I call it a desire to do something. Yeah. Not necessarily a plan or a target. It's a desire to do something. I want to do this, or I want to implement this in my business. It doesn't happen overnight necessarily, right?
Right.
So like we look at some of the initiatives we're working on now at this very moment, and these are things that probably started in the discussion months and months ago. So sometimes it takes work, takes time, and you have to have those things to look forward to and plan and target for.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So on to the topic of
all maintenance, man.
All maintenance, but also as it relates to real estate, because actually I have a great example. We have the morning that this airs will be the day that we are reviewing offers, assuming all goes as planned for one of our listings that we didn't know exactly when they were going to be selling, but we knew it would be towards the end of the year. We thought it may be a bit later than it currently is, but it turned out to be a bit sooner than planned. And planning for that one, knowing they were going to be listing in the fall, and they have a nice pool and landscaping, we had our photographer go in advance and shoot some photo and video to make sure we could convey how beautiful the backyard was in the event that we were stuck selling after the pool closed or even further into the winter once the backyard was completely covered with snow. So if anyone's planning on selling during the winter, now is a great time to reach out to a real estate agent, find out who you want to work with, and get that done in advance so you can use it in your marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put the asterisks in there when you say use it in your marketing, because I absolutely don't like when I see a listing in the middle of January and there are no photos of the backyard in January and it's all summer, because then you start thinking, oh, was this house listed in the summer and they didn't sell and now they're on the market? But, that's what I love when we talk home maintenance. And if you think back to our KT Quick Tips episodes, so if you go onto our YouTube channel and have a look, we've always talked about kind of that quarterly maintenance, right? Like spring, summer, winter, fall. And aside from keeping the just general maintenance of your home in good shape, it does help keep the value of the property, right? Like a well-maintained home always sells more than a home that has glaring deficiencies or glaring, maintenance issues.
For sure.
So you never know when you're going to sell. I mean, very few people know, we're selling next June. It may be if you've purchased a brand new build and you've got that date scheduled and all that stuff, maybe then you have a general idea. But if you're buying resale and selling resale, the dream home that you've been waiting for could come on the market next week.
Well, a good example is one of our team members is going in to be interviewed today by somebody who reached out to us a couple of days ago. And they said, oh, we've been following you on social since the beginning. And just yesterday, we saw a house we love. We want to buy it. Right. So it's interesting and that's a very common conversation, despite us preaching, get somebody involved early, so that at the chance that you do find the most perfect house, at least you can be ready to pull the trigger instead of rushing around last minute to do it.
So let's talk about specifics.
All right. So fall maintenance.
Some of your must-dos or things that you've done around your house or plan on doing.
There are two things currently that I'm planning to do. One is I bought an airless battery-powered paint sprayer. So I'll be...
Oh, you did? I've been wanting to invest in one for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been watching them forever and to see if they ever go on sale, and they really don't. So I just bought it. I want to paint the garage door. It's in dire need of paint. So I have to do a little bit of repair work and paint that. And also our front doors. This is a good time of year because the bugs aren't that bad and the temperature's good. So we can leave the doors open or even take them off to spray them nicely in the garage. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And then the other thing I've been looking into, which isn't so much a maintenance thing, but it's appropriate this time of year. We've always had throughout the winter humidifier in each of the 3 bedrooms. And now I've always thought of the idea of getting a whole home or a central humidifier, whatever you want to call it. So I'm looking into that a little bit more seriously now. Not so much maintenance, but it's an upgrade that would be appropriate at this time of year.
Well, I think that's a very important discussion because oftentimes the humidifier goes overlooked, like a central humidifier.
It's never listed hardly ever is it listed as a feature.
I think it's a great, I've wanted to have one installed for the last couple of years, but obviously with COVID, we weren't letting anybody in the house. And I looked at installing it myself, and I'm just not willing to take on that task personally.
Yeah.
And especially for the fact that you can hire somebody to install it pretty cheaply. But your skin, your breathing, that is the biggest impact. But also
and Alicia and the girls have asthma. So for that reason alone.
100%. Well, even if you don't have asthma, just you don't want to be breathing in all of that dry heat that you're pumping into the house for months on end.
Well, and your probability of getting sick when the humidity is not at an ideal level is significantly higher than when it is.
Absolutely. Well, that's why they say when you have young children, or especially babies, you get all the parents putting the portable humidifiers in their room, right?
Yeah.
To provide
that's what we do.
Yeah.
Every winter.
But also anything that has wood, like first of all, your home is likely framed with wood, but also your floors. Like if you have hardwood floors, maintaining proper humidity levels prevents
Yeah.
it from, that whole shrinkage. We'll call it
Yeah.
shrinkage.
Nobody likes shrinkage.
And having,
I mean, I can notice it's noticeable in my house in the winter, the way the floors feel and sound. So
yep, 100%. I agree with the exterior painting. So I touched up my front door now a few weeks ago.
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's an easy task. Like I didn't buy a sprayer. I'm thinking about buying one for some exterior work at the cottage just to make my life easier. But um, I literally took a bucket of paint and a paintbrush. It's flat paint, so that flat paint is a lot more forgiving than if it has any sheen to it. But
Yeah.
the flat paint, I like the look of flat paint. So I just went there with the paintbrush and painted away, and it looks good. And who knows, right? Like if you go to sell your house in the middle of winter, um, I can guarantee you're not touching up the door in the middle of winter when
Yeah,
it's
that's for
snowing and
sure.
minus 20 outside. But that's probably one of the biggest impacts, right? That curb appeal impact. If you're walking up and the garage is all, shoddy paint and the front door is all um, discolored and nicked up.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
even hardware. I mean, our door, our
mhm.
houses are about 10 years old now. The hardware on there is tarnished and old and basic.
Well, at
And
your house, I've upgraded mine
yeah,
since then.
I haven't, but it's
And with
about
the
time.
program, Trott.
Yeah. Another thing is just preparing the lawn and gardens. You don't want, I mean, especially as the leaves start to fall, if you have trees, you want to pick all that up so it's not smothering your lawn over the winter. And then cutting down any perennials and bushes and trimming stuff like that. One, it just makes everything look clean and nicer for curb appeal if you're selling, but also it gives your garden a better start in the spring and fertilize your lawn in the fall. If you do end up selling in the spring, it'll give you a bit of a boost into the spring to give you a better lawn, which is nice.
Yeah, I find I haven't used it in the last couple of years, and my grass has felt that effect.
Yeah.
But I used to use a good fall fertilizer that has the nitrogen in it,
Yeah.
and I think it really helps maintain the strength and overall look of the sod going into the warmer months after coming out of fall. You're giving it good protection and giving it the food it needs to stay healthy. But I
Yeah.
did that with my gardens. I don't know if you noticed my front gardens there. I trimmed everything down.
Yes, I
got some
did see that.
got some fresh mulch just
Yeah.
to make it pop. I know Natalie's going to be planting her Halloween decorations out there, so didn't want all those ugly dying or decaying uh, flowers and bushes and whatever we have out there. My my poor hospices got trimmed down all the way, covered up, and now
Another
they're
thing
good.
I wanted to do was trim, the trees on our boulevard. So those are municipally owned trees, but they're very annoying. Like they intrude over the sidewalk. You've got a duct to go under them.
I trimmed mine.
Did you? See, I don't
Yours,
know much
yours,
about.
yours now needs a trimming.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about pruning trees. I understand from what I understand, you're supposed to do it in the dead of winter. Um, but that's the extent of my knowledge. And then also how to do it so that it continues to grow in a nice shape. I'm worried I'm going to trim it and it's going to the spring is going to come around. I'm going to have this sparsely filled in tree that just looks odd. And those
I don't
trees
know. I don't know if you saw Ava's tree. So she lives uh, 1, 2, 3, 4 houses down from me. So Eva's a very well-known insurance broker in town,
is that the
and
corner lot?
oh, And you lived there 10 years. She's lived there 10 years. She lives
Oh,
5
okay.
homes from you. You don't know who it is?
Okay. I
Next
know it.
to
I'm trying to picture
Texas.
the house.
Next to Texas.
Yes.
So, anyways, if you look at her tree, it's actually growing inverse. So
But
the top, look at it. Look at it.
okay.
Take a picture and post it on our Insta before you come up here.
Okay.
The branches at the top are all bare, but then the what do you call it? The stump of the tree is all full of leaves.
Is
So
it
it's
like coming out of the roots? Is that I hate when that happens.
It's growing upside down. It's so funny.
That's funny.
It's so funny. This is actually a good time to seal your driveway if you haven't done that before or haven't done it recently, before your asphalt gets pounded with snow and salt. And well, hopefully you're not using salt, some of the safer products, but whatever, you're going to be putting some non-slip stuff on it. It's going to be getting pounded with snow and ice and slush. And even if you don't use salt, the salt or the roadway stuff is all coming onto your driveway. So it's good to protect it. And when the snow starts melting and it's spring and you want to get outdoors, your driveway will already look a little bit cleaner and nicer. And it's pretty cheap, pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. You know what I saw recently was an ad for a company that basically give your house a spa day, like a car wash, but they come and wash your whole house. So they come in with these really long ends on their pressure washers. They apply a full coat of soap to the entire exterior of the house, and then they pressure wash it all off. Like it was pretty interesting. It was a neat idea because I usually do that in my little covered porch because you notice how the siding gets very dirty. So it's very obvious that it's dirty and in need of.
I do that all the time on my porch. Yeah.
Yeah. So to think of doing it for the whole house is kind of a neat idea. I don't know. It would be interesting to see the before and after of how noticeable it was, because I think you just kind of get used to it over time.
I'm actually surprised that a lot of people don't properly wash down their front porches and recognize that is an area that's really susceptible to dust.
Yeah.
Because of traffic, the door opening and closing, but also just traffic on the street. And then ultimately what happens is that dust ends up in your house, right? So that's actually a really good tip. I had the exteriors of my windows all professionally cleaned. And it's actually the first time that I've hired somebody to do it at our house because, there's all these products and you have the pressure washer and just a hose and you can kind of do it yourself. But these guys have the proper tools and they know what they're doing. And I'm telling you, they did a great job. And what a difference.
I bet.
Natalie's like, why are you hiring somebody to wash the windows? And I said, just, let me spend that. I think it was like $150, something like that.
That's well worth it. That would take a day. That would take an entire day.
Well, and they did the basement windows, all levels of all the windows, scrubbed it down with soap and, and then even squeegeed after. And the extra amount of light that comes through now in the basement and in some of the windows that were really dirty, you wouldn't think about it because you look at it and you go, yeah, it's dirty, but whatever. And then the clarity of just being able to see out without that obstruction of having dirt on the window.
Yeah.
You don't recognize it necessarily, but it makes a world of difference.
Oh, I believe it. Because when I occasionally, by occasionally, I mean probably once every 2 years, wash some of the main floor windows on the outside, it's like night and day. It's noticeably better. And it's nice and clear. It's a definite worthwhile doing it. In my basement windows in my bathroom, I actually used because I don't have any blinds in there. I used the spray frosting, the little aerosol can of spray frosting. Have you seen that before?
No.
It works extremely well. So it's an alternative to buying like a roll that you try to cut and trim and get it the right shape, which is impossible. So you just tape off the edges with a newspaper. I taped off the edges of the glass, and you get this aerosol can. You spray it. It's like spray paint basically, and you do 2 or 3 coats of it, and it's like the perfect application of frosting, and it's formed perfectly right to the window. And if you want to get it off, you just scrape it off with a razor blade.
That's good to know, because I've been thinking about options.
Yeah.
Like an example, well, maybe not so much off topic, but in our kitchen, we have our garden door and then the transom window, right? Because when you have 9-foot ceilings, 10-foot ceilings, you usually have a window above any of your garden or opening doors like that.
Yeah.
And years ago now, it's been there for years, I took a sheet of parchment paper.
Oh my gosh.
Cut it to size, and I taped the parchment paper there because I wanted the privacy, but still allow light in.
That's
and
funny.
I hate those rolls that you buy. Those
I didn't want to.
They're very difficult to properly cut to size, but even when you put it on, after some years, it starts to chip away or come off or whatever. And if you ever try and get it off, it's almost impossible because it gets, left behind, and the residue and all that. Like, I've tried to take some off for clients, and it's a huge undertaking. So you'll have to.
Well, you can. I'll give you the can. I won't need it again, I don't believe, and it'll just sit there. I'm sure there's enough for that. The only thing with it, doing it inside, it does stink. As you're basically using a can of spray paint inside. So you probably want to do it on a day when the kids are out, or keep the windows open or something like that. So suitable time of year to do something like that too.
Oh, for sure. As always, maintaining your HVAC system and components, super important. So you said humidifier, good time to install a humidifier. Also a good time to have your ducts cleaned. Get those ducts nice and fresh before you are running all of that heat through. Of course, change your furnace filter. Clean out the filter in your heat recovery ventilator if you have one. And it is also a good time to get a maintenance done on your furnace. So,
well, now is perfect time, because in a month from now, they're going to be bombarded by phone calls saying my furnace won't turn on.
Exactly. So you get ahead of the game. It's kind of like getting your winter tires put onto your car, right? When you call during the first snowstorm, you can't get in for a week or 10 days.
Yeah.
But if you book it in now, you're protecting yourself that you've got that appointment. So note to self.
Actually, I'm supposed to do that sooner than later. They said do it like a month, like October, I think.
Yeah, as soon as the weather starts hitting like 5 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
That is the optimum, actually, the optimum temperature for your winter tires.
Yeah. You mentioned caulking. I think caulking is a good idea, and most people never do it, period. Especially like exterior windows and doors. Why are you smirking?
I said I did.
You mentioned caulking. Yeah.
I did.
I'm pretty sure you did. Maybe I just thought of it and thought you said it. But anyways, caulking of exterior doors and windows. I checked ours is actually surprisingly not terrible, but 10 years in, it's starting to dry and crack in some areas. And, as soon as that happens, it could mean you're going to have water penetration. It also means for sure they're not as efficient as they were. So you're losing heat in the winter. So your costs are going up. So that's a good upgrade to do.
One of my most important tips during this time of year, we've talked about it in past videos. You will now, over the course of the next 6 months, be putting your home at its most susceptible levels to water penetration. You're going to go through periods of lots of snow and rain, and you want to make sure that all of that water is being directed away from the home, away from the foundation. So your downspouts, if you don't already have the inverters that you can buy that fit on the bottom of your downspouts, They cost about 10, 13 bucks a piece. It's literally a plastic hose that you slide on top, and you can extend it and wiggle it any direction you want. And that means any water coming from the eaves down the spout gets directed away from the foundation. And
Yeah.
you also want to make
Funny,
sure
we just
that
added a couple of those to our house.
yeah, you want to also make sure that the grading has not receded in any way, shape, or form during the last 6 months, because in the summer, especially if you're doing some gardening and things like that, you can have pockets and areas where water and moisture will just sit. And that means that the budding your foundation, which means a higher level or higher likelihood that you could have water penetration, or just keeping the concrete too wet.
Yeah. And one thing we don't think about, or not that we don't think about it, but we don't have to worry about it too much because we're in a relatively new neighborhood where the houses are taller than the trees, except for the trees in our backyards. Actually, our trees are growing quite well. But in older neighborhoods where there are more trees, or if you're in a rural area, and now more than ever, because you have a lot of people that have moved to rural areas from the city and from the suburbs where they're not used to all these changes and what maintenance items go into maintaining homes like that. You have to clear the gutters, because if you don't, and you get ice damming, which is water freezing in your gutters, and it builds up and creates like an ice dam, and then water will back up underneath the shingles, and that can ruin your roof and back up into the attic. So you got to clear out the downspouts also, but the gutters.
Yeah.
What you should do at the cottage while you're there. When are you leaving?
I already did yesterday. In anticipation of the rain coming, the first thing I did after I unpacked is I grabbed my ladder. I went up on the roof.
Nice.
It was also to see if I could find any pockets of areas as to where the squirrels that are now in my attic
are. They still in there?
Yeah, one was dancing this morning for me while I was taking a poop.
Have you looked up in the attic?
I have not, because, well, I'll show you when you're here. I don't really have access to the attic.
You don't have access, but the little critters do.
Yeah, I know, right? So we have a T-bar ceiling in our living, dining, and the bedrooms. We converted to you can see there, a smooth ceiling in the kitchen and surrounding area. So if I was to remove one of the ceiling tiles in the living room, it'll give me access to the attic. But there's a what do you call it? A vapor barrier, and then the insulation on top. So I have to cut the vapor barrier to be able to see in there. And
there's no actual access panel, eh? That's interesting.
No, I don't know if there was at one point, or if one of them was used for that purpose. Because obviously when we did the first part of the renovation, they had to get up there, and we did the spray foam and all that stuff. But I'm just afraid of all the mouse poop that's going to fall down when I do that. And definitely I want to get like friggin' hazmat suit or something, because
what's above the vapor barrier? Is it just blown in insulation?
Vats of insulation in the older part of the cottage. It's yeah. So it'll be messy and I've got to get I'm getting some quotes on the next stage of our renovation, and thinking about potentially building a second floor.
Yeah.
And vaulting one of the ceilings. So I have to get a structural engineer to come in and take a look. And I know he's going to want to look up into the attic. So, but I'm afraid to find dead rodents, lots of rodent poop.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's maybe a boyfriend and girlfriend squirrel.
Oh God, you better take care of that. Actually, that's a very good conversation, because that's probably one of the most important things people can do now too. And most people, it was perfect. Most people never do it. When was the last? Actually, I did it recently, but most people never look in their attic ever. And right now, as the weather's changing, that's when critters are going to be looking for a nice, cozy home this winter.
I do it at least once a year myself. And you're looking for a few things. You're looking for evidence of rodents. Usually it's trails that you see in the insulation. I'm looking to make sure that insulation hasn't blown around and gathered in one specific area, leaving other areas exposed. Because that can happen. You know, you have a windstorm or something, and just because of the airflow, insulation
or just wasn't blown in properly.
Possibly wasn't installed properly. But you're also looking for any water penetration. So if you had, like you said, ice damming and potential roof issues or whatever, or gutter issues, trough issues, whatever, you'll see evidence of water penetration.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that that's all in good order as well. And now is a great time because it's not too cold, not too hot. Because if you go up into your attic in the summer, you're going to like have a heat stroke. And if you go up into the winter, your nose is going to freeze. So this is great weather to do that.
I also looking for making sure the ventilation for your bathrooms or laundry, whatever you've got up there, is venting properly. If the venting comes off and you've got moist, humid air blowing into the attic, that's just going to cause problematic situations where you could get mold. Actually, mine was interesting because I couldn't see where they were venting. I think the vents in the bathrooms
of the house
vent out the sides. I've never seen how that works, so I have to move the insulation around.
Yeah.
Must come out of the soffit or something.
All great tips. If anybody listening or watching has any additional tips you want to share with the audience, we're always
drop them in the comments.
Always looking at the comments and the DMs. This is episode 150 of KT Confidential. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to these podcasts, make sure you drop us a like. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Nope, I'm good. Nice chatting. We'll see you tomorrow. I'll bring some wine glasses.
Please do. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.